Alright guys, so we are now doing the benchmark portion of this build. So we have the Ryzen 3300X with the 6600XT, and as many of you may or may not know, the 3300X is really one of the strongest 4-core 8-threaded processors out there. It's actually stronger than something like the Intel i3-10100, 10100F. It's stronger than any of the previous 4-core 8 threads out there. So that means in pretty much any game out there, the 3300X is actually on par with something like a Ryzen 3600, and it's really even close to something like a 5600X in most games, because most games don't really take advantage of those 6 cores and 12 threads. They just want very strong individual cores. So obviously we have Fortnite loaded up first, and as you can see, I mean, we're getting very respectable FPS on performance mode. You can see I just decided to just take myself out there. But yeah, that was performance mode in Fortnite. Overall, we're in perfect. Next, we have Splitgate. And in Splitgate, once again, it really did well. Splitgate actually doesn't have an unlimited frame cap for some reason. I think that unlimited in their eyes is 360 FPS. So that's why you kind of see us hit around 359, 360, and then it stops. But you can see we have a couple of dips here and there, so it's not like it's a perfect 360 anyways. But yeah, overall though, did absolutely amazing. Splitgate was completely maxed out 1080p, just like, you know, Fortnite was 1080p, but performance mode. And yeah, I mean, overall though, very smooth gameplay. We're actually only playing on a 60Hz monitor in this test. It's actually a 4K monitor that we downscale, but overall it works pretty good. It's definitely always fun to look at the actual percentage numbers of something like the 6600XT and the Ryzen 3300X, because you can actually get a visual representation of how much they're actually being used. And you can see a game like Splitgate, it looks like it's a little bit more GPU bound, especially on higher settings like this. But you know, it's always fun to change settings around and see if it makes certain games become more CPU dependent or more graphics card dependent. Now, a game like Chivalry is definitely a little bit of a more graphics intensive game. I just wanted to throw something in there that has a large amount of players. I think this is like a 60 player server. It's either 32 or 60. Either way though, it's a lot of players. Even some AI. There's a lot of elements in this game. We're actually running at 1080p, all high settings. We're not at max, though it totally could have done max settings. I just wanted to get around the 144 Hertz mark, which you can see we're getting close to 144 FPS, but we're at least getting over 100, so we know you'd still get a very smooth gameplay, as you can tell by this. But obviously, we could have maxed the game out. We could totally get into 1440p gaming on the 6600XT. That's kind of what they have in mind, is 1080p and 1440. Obviously, 4K is kind of far-fetched, but you know, if you want to play some lower end games, you might totally be able to do it. Yeah, I mean, we really barely ever dipped down below 100 FPS. I don't even know if I ever actually saw it dip below 100 in this, but you know, it was definitely an enjoyable experience. And a 6600XT would just be absolutely amazing for pretty much any AAA title out there. Can even do some streaming on AAA titles, you know, as you can tell, because we'll be doing Warzone here in just a second, and pretty much high settings, 1080p in Warzone with no frame rate cap or anything. You know, we were getting around, I would say, like 90 to 140 FPS most of the time. So as you can see here, we're going through all the settings, just showing you guys that I have stuff pretty much set to high. We have like a couple things that are disabled, but for the most part, 1080p, high settings, no frame rate cap. Dropping in, you know, we're getting around 80 FPS, which is really solid. We just tried to drop Superstore to get the hottest drop in the game, and of course nobody landed here, so I had to do a little bit of running around and scouting. But on the ground, you know, with textures loading in and everything, we're hovering around 70 to, I would say, like 85 FPS. Once we go inside or like look up in the skies and stuff, I'm sure we get much higher FPS. But you know, if you wanted to get that smooth gameplay experience and be like the ultimate streamer, most of the time we're gonna be doing pro settings in games where you have pretty much everything turned down or off. But I decided, you know, we kind of go in the middle, try to make the games look really nice while also getting a decent FPS, and you can see we did that here. But you know, we had a little camper situation where we had a guy sitting up top that had killed a couple people, and I was like, you know what, I gotta put an end to him. So gotta do the little peek, you know, find out where he's at, so I know he's in the corner, and then boom, here we go. And look at that. It's always so sad when someone camps and they still can't get you. But then it was a very unfortunate turn of events, because right after this, I walk out and I get absolutely murked by a camper that was staring outside of the window in the building next to me, actually. He might have even came into this building and been sitting up there. I'm not really too sure, but he definitely had some camper vibes to him, which you'll see here in a second. But yeah, overall though, 3300X, 6600XT, almost a match made in heaven. You can see there's really not any major bottlenecking based on the percentages. They're both, in almost every game, hover very close to each other, which is really good to see. Neither of them are really even being fully utilized in a lot of things. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up.